Welcome back to Culture Code English. I am so glad you are here today. Take a slow, deep breath, let your shoulders drop, get completely comfortable, and relax. Today, we are going to explore a deeply misunderstood, stressful, and fascinating code of American life, the hidden rules of American tipping. Imagine walking into a cozy coffee shop in New York, Los Angeles, or Chicago on a bright morning. You order a simple $3 cup of drip coffee. You pull out your credit card to pay. Suddenly, the cashier turns a modern digital iPad screen around to face you. The screen displays three large, bright buttons offering tipping options: 18%, 20%, or 25%. Below them, in tiny gray letters, is an option that reads "No tip." The cashier stands there quietly, staring at the screen. You feel a sudden wave of social anxiety. Your heart beats a little faster. You worry that if you tap "No tip," the cashier will judge you or feel offended. You quickly press the 20% button, adding extra money to a simple counter order, or consider another common shock. Imagine finishing a lovely dinner at a neighborhood diner. You leave a couple of small coins on the table and walk out the front door. Suddenly, the waiter hurries outside onto the sidewalk, looking deeply hurt, and asks, "Excuse me, was there something wrong with my service tonight?" To almost every international visitor, student, or immigrant, these experiences feel confusing, uncomfortable, and frustrating. In most parts of Europe, Asia, and South America, tipping is seen as a voluntary gift, a small, generous bonus given only when service is exceptionally good. In some countries, leaving extra money on the table is even viewed as strange or impolite. Because of this background, many newcomers assume that tipping in America is also optional. They view it as a generous gesture rather than a necessity. When they see tipping screens appearing everywhere, or when servers look upset over a low tip, newcomers often feel angry. They think, "Why should I pay extra money? Why doesn't the restaurant owner simply pay their employees a fair wage?" Consider the story of Grace. Grace was a young professional who moved to New York City for her first job. During her first 2 months, Grace felt constant tipping anxiety. Every time she bought a bagel, ordered a sandwich, or sat down for dinner, she wrestled with guilt and confusion. She felt as though she was being forced to give away her hard-earned money for basic service. What Grace did not realize was that in American culture, tipping is not a generous bonus for good work. It is a rigid, unwritten, and legally protected social contract. Today, we are going to decode the secret history, the laws, and the survival economics behind American tipping. We will explore how post-Civil War history created the tipping system, why American customers are actually the direct employers of service workers, and how you can navigate tipping culture with confidence, fairness, and complete peace of mind. To understand how tipping became a deeply rooted requirement in American daily life, we must travel back in time. You might be surprised to learn that for the first 100 years of American history, tipping did not exist in the United States. In fact, most early Americans strongly hated the idea. In the early 19th century, Americans viewed tipping as a corrupt, anti-democratic European habit. They called it a cancer on democracy. They believed that in a free republic, all workers should be paid a fair, honest wage by their employers, rather than bowing down and begging for extra coins from rich customers. Between 1909 and 1915, 6 American states even passed strict laws making tipping completely illegal. So, how did an un-American custom become a defining feature of modern American culture? The shift began after the American Civil War, during a historical period known as the Gilded Age. Wealthy Americans began traveling to Europe in large numbers. While visiting aristocratic estates and luxury hotels in England and France, these wealthy travelers noticed a European custom called giving a tip. When these travelers returned home, they brought the habit back with them. They began giving tips in fancy American hotels and restaurants, using the practice to show off their wealth and feel like European nobility. At the exact same time, a massive business revolution was taking place on the American railroad system. A powerful businessman named George Pullman created the famous Pullman Palace Car Company, building luxury sleeping cars for train travelers across the nation. To serve these wealthy passengers, George Pullman hired thousands of newly emancipated black men as train porters. Instead of paying these workers a living wage, George Pullman created a controversial new business model. He paid the porters an extremely low salary, sometimes as little as $12 a month, and openly expected passengers to make up the difference by giving tips. Think about what this meant. The Pullman Company realized that by encouraging customers to tip, they could keep their own labor costs extremely low while shifting the burden of paying their workers directly onto the public. This business model quickly spread from luxury trains to hotels, barbershops, and restaurants across the country. Restaurant owners realized that if they allowed customers to tip, they could pay their servers less money out of their own pockets. Over the next few decades, this corporate practice became locked into American labor law. Eventually, federal labor laws created what is known as the tip credit. Under this law, employers are legally permitted to pay tipped workers a subminimum wage, a base pay far below the standard minimum wage, because the law assumes that customer tips will cover the rest. Understanding this history changes everything. The American tipping system was not created by generous customers wanting to reward great service. It was designed by businesses as a clever financial structure to keep company wages low. It turned American customers into the direct, primary employers of service workers. This historical structure explains why tipping in America operates on a completely different logic than in the rest of the world. Today, under United States federal labor law, the standard minimum wage for regular workers is $7.25 per hour. However, for tipped employees, such as restaurant waiters, bartenders, and food delivery drivers, the federal subminimum wage is just $2.13 per hour. This base rate has remained locked in place for over 30 years. Think about what $2.13 per hour actually means in a modern American city. In many states, after local, state, and federal taxes are deducted from that tiny $2 base pay, a waiter's official weekly paycheck from the restaurant owner often reads $0. Yes, $0. The employer pays virtually nothing to the server out of their own corporate bank account. The server relies almost 100% on the tips left on the table by customers to pay their monthly rent, buy groceries, and support their families. This reality became crystal clear to Grace during her 3rd month living in New York. One rainy evening, Grace sat down for dinner at a casual Italian restaurant in Manhattan. She ordered a pasta dish for $25. The server was polite, but the kitchen was busy, and the food took a very long time to arrive at her table. Feeling annoyed by the delay, Grace left just $2 on the table when paying her bill, a tip of less than 8%. As Grace gathered her coat to leave, her server, a hard-working young man named Mark, stopped by her table to pick up the receipt. He noticed the $2 tip and looked slightly concerned. He smiled politely and asked, "Excuse me, ma'am, was everything okay with your meal tonight? Did I do something wrong?" Grace felt defensive. She replied, "The food took way too long to arrive. I didn't feel the experience was worth a full tip." Mark took a deep breath and spoke calmly and respectfully. "I completely understand your frustration with the kitchen delay, and I apologize for the wait," Mark said softly. "I just wanted to make sure I didn't make a personal mistake. You see, the restaurant owner pays me just $2.13 an hour. After taxes, my paycheck from the restaurant is literally $0. My rent and my food depend entirely on the tips from my tables. When a customer leaves a low tip, I actually lose money because I am required to share a percentage of my total sales with the busboys and bartenders at the end of the night." Hearing Mark's words, Grace felt a wave of shock, followed by a profound realization. She realized that by withholding a tip to punish the restaurant for slow food, she was not hurting the wealthy restaurant owner. She was taking away the direct living wage of a hard-working young man. Grace realized that in America, when you sit down at a restaurant table, you are not just a customer buying a meal. You are stepping into the role of a direct employer. Grace reached into her purse, added a proper 20% tip, and apologized. From that moment on, Grace never viewed tipping the same way again. Mark's story helps us understand sit-down restaurant tipping. But in recent years, a new phenomenon has emerged in daily American life that causes immense confusion even for native residents. This phenomenon is known as tip creep, driven by modern digital payment technology. 10 years ago, you only tipped when sitting down at a full-service restaurant or when taking a taxi. But today, whether you are buying a cup of drip coffee, picking up a takeout pizza, or buying a muffin at a bakery, staff turn a digital touchscreen around to face you. The screen prompts you with preset options: 18%, 20%, or 25%. Standing face-to-face with a worker staring at you creates a wave of psychological pressure known as tip guilt. Many people press 20% simply to avoid feeling awkward or judged. To navigate this modern pressure without anxiety, we must compare how different cultures structure the cost of service. In most European and Asian societies, the cost of labor is fully integrated into the menu price. When you buy a bowl of ramen in Tokyo or a coffee in Paris, the menu price reflects the full cost of ingredients, store rent, and a complete living wage for the staff. Service is viewed as a professional duty included in the price, and leaving extra cash can sometimes be seen as strange or unnecessary. In contrast, the American economic model unbundles the cost of labor. Menu prices in America look artificially cheaper on paper because the employer delegates a large portion of the worker's wage directly to the customer's conscience. It creates an environment where every small purchase feels like a moral decision. However, understanding the legal difference between counter service and sit-down dining frees you completely from this digital trap. At a sit-down restaurant, where a waiter takes your order, brings your food, and cleans your table over an hour, the server relies on the subminimum wage system. Here, tipping 18 to 20% is essential to ensure they receive a living wage for their labor. However, at a quick service counter, coffee shop, or takeout spot where you stand up to order, pick up your own cup, and clear your own trash, the employees are legally paid the full standard minimum wage by their employer. On these digital screens, tipping is a true voluntary bonus, a polite way to say thank you for exceptional speed or kindness, but never a mandatory obligation. When you understand this legal and economic boundary, tip guilt completely disappears. You no longer feel manipulated by digital screens or social pressure. You can tip generously when you sit down for dinner, and calmly choose no tip at a counter without feeling a single drop of shame. How can you use this knowledge to navigate daily life in America with total confidence and zero anxiety? The secret is simple. Stop viewing tipping as an emotional judgment and start treating it as a clear, practical contract. When you sit down at a full-service restaurant, remember that your server is working under the subminimum wage law. Leaving 18 to 20% is not a generous bonus. It is paying the labor cost of your meal. If the kitchen makes a mistake or the food is late, speak to the manager about a discount on the food bill, but do not punish the server by withholding their living wage. On the other hand, when you stand at a coffee shop counter, a bakery, or a takeout spot, remember that the employees receive full standard minimum wages from their employer. The digital screen prompting you for a tip is completely optional. If the barista makes a wonderful recommendation or brightens your morning with kindness, feel free to leave $1 or press 15%. But if you simply want to pay for your drip coffee and walk away, choose no tip with a calm, polite smile. You have fulfilled your part of the transaction. Understanding these rules transforms your experience in Western society. You stop feeling guilty, confused, or manipulated by screens. You show native speakers that you understand their economic codes, and you interact with service workers with authentic respect and dignity. Look at how far you have already come in today's lesson. You have just listened to a complex, detailed, and deep exploration of American history, labor law, and cross-cultural economics completely in English. You did not rely on boring grammar worksheets or dry vocabulary sheets. Your brain naturally followed the narrative, absorbed the cultural context, and adapted effortlessly to the rhythm of spoken English. Feel proud of your quiet dedication today. Be patient with your mind. Mastering a new language is not a stressful race. It is like watching a magnificent oak tree grow strong roots day by day. Every story you listen to, every cultural code you decode, and every quiet minute you spend here is retraining your ears to think directly in English without translating in your head. Consistency is your ultimate strength. Just 15 to 20 minutes of peaceful listening every single day will create extraordinary transformation over time. If you enjoyed discovering the secret history behind American tipping today, and if you are ready to make daily listening a natural part of your English journey, make a simple, powerful promise to yourself right now. Leave a mark of your growth in the comments below. Type, "I respect the contract," in the comments right now. By writing these 4 words, you are locking in your commitment to growth. You are telling your brain that you understand the hidden codes of Western society and that you are building the confidence to navigate any situation with dignity. Thank you so much for spending this peaceful, meaningful time learning with me today on Culture Code English. Keep listening, keep practicing with patience, and never lose your curiosity. I look forward to decoding another fascinating piece of our world with you very soon. Have a wonderful, relaxing day, and keep listening every single day.